The Ghost of Peel Mansion. They say Bentonville's charm rests on progress, bicycles, breweries, and the hum of commerce. But the old ones, they whisper something else. That beneath the manicured lawns and the boutique storefronts lies a town built on restless spirits. And at the center of it all stands the Peel Mansion, a house of light by day and shadows by night. Welcome to Ride the Story with the Radventurers, where every journey is powered by curiosity, charged by adventure, and told through the trails we ride. My name is Arius, storyteller, explorer, and your guide through Colorado's wild roads, forgotten legends, and electric experiences that make every mile unforgettable. From haunted canyons and hidden ghost towns to the solar-powered nomads chasing the horizon, we don't just ride for the view, we ride the story. So plug in, power up. This is Ride the Story with the Radventurers. Part 1. The Song of Minnie Bell. The year was 1883. Colonel Samuel Peel, a former Confederate soldier turned congressman, had built his mansion on a stretch of Bentonville land that caught the morning sun. It was meant to be a symbol of rebirth, white stone, walnut trim, and laughter echoing through its halls. His pride and joy wasn't his political career or the fields beyond the veranda. It was his daughter, Minnie Bell Peel. Minnie now wasn't like other young ladies of her day. She was quiet, pale, with eyes the color of storm water, and a strange habit of listening to silence before she played the piano. She said she could hear things hiding in it. She played from memory, melodies no one had ever written, songs that made flowers tilt and dogs whimper outside. The servants would whisper that the tunes didn't sound learned. They sounded, well, received. Her father brushed off their talk as superstition, but her mother, she had a bad feeling and crossed herself every time the girl played after midnight. Part 2. The Night the Music Changed. One late autumn evening, Bentonville was swallowed by a storm that shook the mansion's very foundations. The lamps flickered, rain beat against the windows like 1,000 small fists. Inside, Minnie Bell sat at her piano, alone, playing something low and mournful, a piece no one had heard before. Her father, pacing his study, heard her pause mid-melody and whisper. He thought she was praying, but he listened again. What she whispered wasn't English. Moments later, the house filled with the sound of a chord, so deep it rattled the halls. Servants came running, shouting for the colonel. When they reached the parlor, Minnie was slumped over the keys, her fingers frozen mid-note, her eyes wide open, unblinking. And yet, her lips moved, just enough to say something that chilled every soul who heard it. The song isn't finished. She died that night. The coroner claimed it was fever, but the colonel, hollowed and gray, locked the parlor, and swore no piano would ever play again in his home. Part 3. The Whisper in the Hall. Years passed. The mansion grew quieter, dust collecting over its fine wood and oil lamps. But every now and then, someone passing along Walton Boulevard, then just a muddy road, swore they heard piano music drifting from the dark house. It wasn't until after Colonel Peel's death that the haunting began in earnest. The first caretaker, a war veteran named Amos, lasted only a week. He told neighbors that the house breathed, that doors sighed open on their own, that he woke one night to see a figure in white sitting at the parlor piano, though the keys were sealed under glass. When he tried to approach, every candle in the house snuffed out. The next morning, he was gone. His bed still warm, his boots by the door. The only sign of him? A muddy set of footprints leading to the parlor and stopping right there. Part 4. The Reopening. By the mid-1900s, Bentonville decided the old mansion should live again. Volunteers came from all around, cheerful retirees, eager students, and, of course, a few curious skeptics. They came to scrub, repaint, and polish the bones of the once grand old home. They laughed off the ghost stories at first. Southern superstition, they said. Nothing a little fresh paint can't fix. Then the first accident happened. A cleaning woman named Margaret was dusting the second-floor hallway when she suddenly screamed and tumbled down the grand staircase. She survived, barely, and through cracked ribs and trembling lips, she told what she'd seen. A girl standing behind me, not human. Her face wasn't right. When pressed about what she saw, she whispered that the girl had skin so pale it looked like it was powdered with frost, and her hair, it hung in wet, tangled ropes that brushed the floor. Her eyes were wrong, so wrong, pupilless pools of shining black, like, twin drops of oil. And her mouth was so wide, too wide, stretched into an awkward, horrific smile that didn't fit her face. The girl hadn't moved, Margaret said. She had only tilted her head, slowly, like a marionette, until her neck made a soft crack, and then she grinned wider, as if pleased with the terror she caused. They found a perfect handprint on the banister where Margaret had fallen, small, delicate, and icy cold to the touch, though the air was sweltering hot that day. After that, nobody wanted to clean alone. But the curator, Eleanor Vance, well, she wasn't afraid. She called it collective hysteria. So she stayed late one evening to finish her inventory, the mansion empty but for her. Around midnight, as the grandfather clock struck 12, the silence broke. A single piano note. Deep, resonant, drifted from the parlor. then another, and another, until a full, sorrowful melody echoed through the house, faint but unmistakably real. Eleanor's flashlight beam trembled as she descended the staircase. The sound grew clearer, faster, as if whoever played knew she was coming. When she reached the parlor, the door stood ajar. The piano bench was pulled out. Inside, the air was freezing, so her breath, as she breathed, fogged. She whispered, "Hello?" The piano was playing itself, keys rising and falling in a rhythm both beautiful and wrong. And then she saw her. The girl stood on the far side of the piano, half shrouded in shadow. Her dress, once white, hung in tatters, damp and glistening like something pulled from a lake. Her hair clung to her face in thick, dark strands. And beneath it, a grin too wide, too human, stretched across her jaw. Eleanor couldn't move. The girl's head jerked up in sharp, twitching motions, like a puppet on tangled strings. When their eyes met, Eleanor's flashlight flickered and died. But she never saw so clearly. Looking into the little girl's eyes, she saw the dark truth of those eyes. Bottomless voids, swirling with faint reflections of candlelight that didn't exist. Then the ghost spoke. Not in words, but in a sound, a gasp that carried through the piano, vibrating in every string. And in that vibrating hum, Eleanor swore she heard the words, "Play with me." The lights died, every candle stuffed out. The piano's final chord rang through the mansion like thunder. And then silence. When Eleanor awoke, the sun was rising. She was in her car parked just outside the wrought iron gates. The mansion behind her was still locked from the inside, and though she never returned, every night since then, the guards say they hear a faint sound drifting through the air. The melody she heard that night, faint and unfinished. Even now, and sometimes, whenever it feels like, if you look through the parlor window after dark, you'll see a girl with black eyes and a smile too wide, staring back, waiting for someone brave enough to finish the song. Part 5. The song returns. They say the living left the Peel mansion long ago, but the house never emptied. By day, tourists stroll the gardens, snap photos, and remark how peaceful it feels. They marvel at the magnolias, the polished banisters, all the museum exhibits frozen in time. But when night falls, when the last volunteer locks the door and the lights go black, the mansion exhales and something inside begins to move. The piano starts first, always the same 3 notes. Soft, uncertain, like a child testing whether someone's listening. Then the creaking begins, the stairs, the hallway, the whisper of feet that never reach the floor. The air grows cold, thick, metallic, like a storm about to break, and if you listen long enough, under the piano's melody, you'll hear breathing, slow, wet, wrong, so wrong. It's Minnie Bell, or what's left of her. But some folks say that not the same spirit who died in 1883 is still here. They say the real Minnie was taken, swallowed by something ancient that lived in the silence that she used to listen to. Something that saw her open that door with her music and walked right through the gate. They say it wears her shape like a glove now. The smile, the hair, the trembling hands. And that it's been perfecting her melody ever since. One night not long ago, a group of ghost hunters set up a camera, many cameras, inside the mansion. They joked, they took readings, they didn't believe. They even set a recorder on the piano. At 3:07 a.m., the piano began playing. They caught it on video, keys moving in perfect rhythm, though the bench was empty. And in the reflection, on the glossy wood, faint but visible, was a face. Not a girl's, not entirely human. A face too smooth, too pale, its grin stretching past its cheeks. Eyes black, liquid, shimmering like the surface of deep water. It stared straight into the camera, then the feed went static. When they found the recorder the next morning, it was still running. The last thing it captured was a whisper right beside the mic. It said, "One note left." The lead investigator, a man who'd mocked the legend all night, quit ghost hunting forever. He swore the whisper wasn't on the tape until he played it back at home, and that it wasn't even a recording at all, but a response, because after it spoke, the recorder caught his own voice, even though he hadn't even been there to say it, murmuring one thing: "Play it, Minnie. Play it, Minnie. Play it, Minnie." That's all it said. Now the locals warn newcomers. They say never linger near the mansion after dusk. Don't hum in the gardens. Don't whistle down the halls. Because any form of music calls to that spirit. And when it answers, it won't stop until its hunger is satisfied or until the song is finished. The only question left is, what happens when the song is finished? Some say the final note will release this terrible spirit. Others whisper it'll release something else. The thing behind the black eyes. The smile that doesn't fade. Either way, the last chord still hasn't been played. And every night, as Bentonville sleeps, the mansion waits. Silent, listening, hungry. Because in the dead of the night, under the sighing trees and the whispering wind, you can still hear faintly drifting through the air like a lullaby from hell. Play with me.